This is Geek Gab with your host, Daddy Warpig. We are back. That's right, Daddy Warpig, Dorrinal, and Brian Niemeier back again for another episode of Geekariffic Gabfest. I want to welcome all of the people no doubt waiting for us to get on the road. We're only 8 minutes late, which, given the difficulties that have been placed in our path today, is practically miraculous. We have literally on the phone, and I'll explain that literally in mere moments, we have literally on the phone Larry Correia, Monster Hunter 45, the international Lord of Hate, author of the Grim Noir series, author of Monster Hunter International, author of Dead Six and Swords of Exodus, which, by the way, there's actually a proper name for that series, but I don't know it. How bad of a fan am I? And also author of a top-secret fantasy series starting in October from, of course, Bayan Books. I'm going to stop talking now and let Larry say hi.
Hey, everybody.
For those of you, let me tell you how this is going to work. By the way, we do this through Google Plus Hangouts, and we do this through Google on the Air through YouTube. And just 2 days ago, I tested out the capability of calling out to someone's phone and inviting them into the Hangout so Larry could join us. And, of course, today, when we get the show set up and running, it won't let me make a call. I rush to research the issue, and I find dozens of blogs that are happy to assure me that I am fully capable of making this call now, thanks to Google adding this capability, but none of them tell me how. It's the benefit of blogging that you can tell people that something awesome is available, but I don't actually tell them how they can get this awesome thing. So what I am doing, I have my mic sitting here by the computer, and I am literally holding up my iPhone in my right hand so Larry can talk into the mic. Unfortunately, it means he can't hear anything else but me, which is a grave discourtesy to a celebrity guest to force him to listen to only me for an entire hour, but that is what we have to do. Dorrinal, Brian are going to be talking into my ear, and then I will ask Larry the question. So, folks, you're going to hear every question twice. You're just going to have to get used to it. Apologies. Apologies for this. This is...
That's right, ladies and gentle geeks. It is 2015. Welcome to the show. This is the future.
This isn't too bad, really.
Well, so we're gonna get right down to it because I'm tired of complaining and I'm tired of being angry at Google and Skype. I want to talk about fun stuff. That's what this show is. All play, no work, 1 hour of coolness just to cool you down from last week, get you ready for next week. I'm going to stop for a minute and the way I should have done and let my co-hosts take a shot to say hi. So Brian, Dorrinal, please say hi to the folks while I rest my wrist and switch to my left hand.
Hello.
Hey guys, hey everybody, hey Brian. What's with the hand switching? I mean, I figured after years of internet use, you should be able to do many tasks with just one hand and switch as necessary.
Oh, that is that is uncalled for. I got that same joke this week from the wife of a celebrity, so I don't need to take that from you, mister. All right, let's jump to Larry because I'm sure more people are here to hear him than to hear us. Okay, when we first spoke about coming on the show, one of the things you mentioned was Sad Puppies. And I know that Brian is registered and ready to nominate and vote. I am registered and ready to nominate and vote, but for the members of the audience who may not know what Sad Puppies is, go ahead and let them know, and also where they can get involved.
Sure. Sad Puppies started 2 years ago, and the big prestigious award in science fiction and fantasy publishing is the Hugo Award. And some of us have just decided that over recent decades they've become more and more irrelevant because they've kind of all been taken over by social justice crusaders, kind of had a voting block, and so they made everything super political, and you had to toe the party line. And so I looked at that, and I got nominated for an award a few years ago, and I pointed out that, because of my politics, I was doomed, and people were very, very biased. And, they called me a liar, so I said, okay, I'll prove it. And so what I did is Sad Puppies was a concentrated effort to get people who weren't social justice types to nominate books, because I wanted to show the world that when, people who weren't part of their group got nominated, they'd have a complete freak out. So I did, and it did exactly as I predicted, and it was hilarious. And so Sad Puppies, the name comes from the fact that the leading cause of puppy-related sadness is pretentious message fic literature taking over sci-fi. And we had a lot of fun with it. We were silly, and my spokesman for the campaign was a manatee. We had a series of cartoons and videos of sad puppies crying. It was really goofy, but it was a big success. We got a bunch of things nominated that normally wouldn't. The other side got outraged. It wound up getting reported in the Wall Street Journal and USA Today. I mean, they threw that much of a kid's fit about it. And then we're doing it again this year. And so if anybody wants to participate, anyone can vote, or anyone can nominate and vote for the Hugo Awards. All you have to do is register with the WorldCon, and there's information on how to do that on my blog, and there's information on Brad Torgerson's blog. He's kind of the guy that's the standard bearer for the campaign this year.
So, those of you listening, I'm sure some of you are fans of Larry that came here because he announced it and I announced it in a couple of places. Some of you are involved, no doubt, in the ongoing controversy that shall not be named because this show is all about fun, not about the controversy. But if you want to be involved in either embarrassing or infuriating social justice warriors who have had a grip, a iron grip on science fiction and fantasy publishing for a good decade and a half or 2 decades now, get involved in nominating for the Hugos, get involved in voting for the Hugos. If you want a supporting membership in Sasquan, which is the convention in Spokane this year, it costs $40 to register, so it does cost some money, but you get to nominate anything for any category. So if there's webcomics you like that you think deserve a Hugo, books, short stories, I believe even musical pieces, but that is just a guess. Larry would know better than I.
Yeah, well, the whole idea was honestly just to get more people involved into the process, and so they can, nominate the things that they love and the things they like that would normally get ignored because they weren't from the proper channel. And I mean, it's not about me. I don't care if I ever get nominated again. That's kind of irrelevant. The important thing is we get just all sorts of different people who would normally be ignored or shunned by the system, and get them out there. And so people can know that, it's become kind of a joke. So this is award-winning, and to a lot of people that was a sign to avoid it, because award-winning meant preachy and bossy and obnoxious. We wanted to put the fun back in it. We wanted exploding spaceships and laser guns. Let's get some fun stuff in there. Let's make genre fiction cool again. And so that was the whole kind of idea. And this year we're going to push a whole bunch of different people, and who we think have produced really good works that would normally get shunned. And so we're gonna stick them out there for people to see. It should be fun.
So
theoretically.
A fun sequence, just an example. Okay, we've got a question for you. Okay, this is actually a good question. Should fantasy and science fiction authors use their work to convey messages?
Well, yeah, you can, but here's the thing. What I say on that is because all authors are going to have themes that they want to explore. They're going to have a point they want to make. We've all got our personal stuff that's going to come into our work no matter what. That said, you got to put enjoyment and story first. You got story first, message fix second. The problem, what got me spun up on all this originally was I would be helping new writers, and they had to have this like hang up that, oh, I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to check this box, and I have to check this box. Well, but that stuff made no sense for their story. It didn't make their story better, it made their story worse. But they felt like they had to do certain things to appease an angry mob, otherwise they were going to get attacked. And that's putting your message first. Which then, here's the thing: if you're not having fun as a writer, the reader's not going to have fun when they read it, because it's kind of that comes through. Like I have a reputation. I write these big action adventure things that people kind of blow through, in a couple days and they have a good time. This is because I have a good time, and my enthusiasm is contagious to the reader. And if you make writing a drudgery for, and I've gotten hundreds of emails from authors of from up doing really extremely well, top best-selling people, all the way down to brand new, just started out, emailing me and thanking me for, hey, thanks for doing this, thanks for provoking these people, thanks for arguing, because for a long time no one would actually argue with them, so it was just kind of accepted. Like, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to insert these kind of characters, you have to have this kind of message. And that just, that's preachy and bossy. And readers don't like being yelled at. Readers are like gamers, and they don't like being told how to have fun. No one likes to be told they're having fun wrong. So that's just kind of my personal pet peeve, I guess. And so that's why we started doing this. And it I just originally started out to make a point, and it kind of grew from there. And this year we've actually got a whole bunch of authors involved that I've not even been able to publicly say who they are, but some pretty big famous authors are involved this year, and we're going to kind of try to shake it up a little bit. So we'll see what happens.
I don't want to say anything else at this point because I'm going to sound sycophantic to say I agree, but I will say this: long before I had heard your name, and yes, that it's true, it's sad. I'm sorry. Please don't be upset with me, fans of Larry in the chat. There was a time at which I had never heard of Larry, so you're just going to have to forgive me for that.
Hey, I'm a relative nobody in the grand scheme of things, so there's no shame in that.
Before I heard your name, I was fed up, sick, and tired of politics and entertainment. I hated it. Just vile obnoxiousness to put politics above everything else. It has been one of the most common pet peeves that I rant about, and my friends are kind of they've heard me on more than one occasion, and I try to tamp it down when I'm around people who know me because they have heard that before. I don't want to go on about it because I don't want to. I feel like I'm not doing this right. I feel like I'm not doing the podcast right. I'm not gushing enough. I'm not.
I think you're doing it right, Warpig. But
I know what you mean. Okay, so I play a lot of video games, and it was kind of weird because my kids, a lot of times when I'm playing like role-playing games, like video games or big story games, my kids tend to congregate in the living room, and they're all doing their own thing, but they're kind of watching the game too, right? I mean, I've got 4 kids, and we kind of have in our family running jokes about BioWare.
Oh yeah.
Just because every now and then you'll be playing, and don't get me wrong, they're fun. I mean, I'm 30 hours in Dragon Age Inquisition right now, but you get to a scene, and there just these just completely asinine relationship thing, just preachy asinine relationship thing, and you know it's bad when you've got like a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, and they start laughing out loud at it because of how ham-fisted it is, and you're just like, oh, come on, BioWare. Give me a break, man. I want to blow up monsters. Yeah, there's some pretty ham-fisted stuff stuck in there sometimes, but I mean that's relatively innocuous compared to some of the things out there. But still, I mean, I'm with you. I understand what you're saying. It drives me nuts too.
We do have another question from Brian. Brian Niemeier. By the way, I'm gonna have to do this. Fortunately, I've got a decent enough memory. I want to break into Larry and take over the show for just a second. Brian is a writer for Sci-Fi Magazine, and he has been trying to get Larry on his podcast for a while, and there's been scheduling difficulties, and so he was so excited for the show this week. He actually ran into Larry at Gen Con and was going to... he was going to do a question and answer with Larry for his podcast, but they were both so exhausted from the show, from all the things they'd been involved with at the con, that they just kind of collapsed and laid there and talked a bit and did not have the energy to do an interview. So, of course, I get Larry ready to do a cast with Brian, and the only thing he can do is type questions into the chat so that I can ask Larry, and Larry can tell you guys. That's how.
Well, for Brian, I don't know how many of your listeners have been to Gen Con. If you're a tabletop gamer at all, you owe it to yourself to go to Gen Con. I'm not going this year, but I've gone the last couple of years in a row. I'm taking this year off. I'm going back in 2016. Gen Con is my favorite con to go to. It is insane. It's just nuts. I bought, $1,000 worth of minis games last time. That's not a joke. I mean, I brought an empty duffel bag and filled it with minis to fly home. Put in perspective. And then so you go to the con all day, and then you wind up in games all night, every night until like 2 o'clock in the morning. And then you get up the next morning and do it again. And, so you get in, I play War Machine, so you'll get in some games like that, pick up games with people, friendly games. A lot of guys will do tournament stuff. Or I wound up last time, doing, 4 different role-playing game sessions over 2 days. Just a crazy fun con. And, so by the end of it, I don't remember what day it was I talked to Brian, but at the end of it, you're just kind of comatose. It's an awesome con, though. Absolutely love it.
I have only been to Gen Con once, but it was the year the Violent Femmes came and played a street concert in between the 2 convention halls. So
cool.
I
missed that one.
Yeah, it was 97. It was a long time ago, but it was a great convention. It really was. Brian lets me know he has all of the interview questions he was going to ask you at Gen Con in front of him right now. So
throw them at me. I'm good to
it. He wanted to ask this question. What impact has geek culture had on your writing?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's kind of, for me, it's kind of inseparable, and because I'm just kind of I've always been into this stuff growing up. And so I guess it influenced me from a storytelling perspective, because I knew the kind of stories I like to hear, the kind of stories I like to participate in. So I shoved that stuff into my books all the time. Probably the most overt one I would overt key influence was the Dead Chicks in Swords of Exodus. The main character that I'm writing is a fellow by the name of Lorenzo. And what it was is this book started out as a writing exercise where we were doing rapid fire, rough draft stuff being posted to the internet with no proofreading, so there was no time to think. Every day you wrote another 1,000 words and stuck it up. It's kind of an experiment. Later it turned into a novel. It's pretty good. So I needed to come up with this character that was fully fleshed out with backstory, history, quirks, personality, had to all be ready to go just instantly. And it was a kind of a spy thriller type novel, but I needed a character who was basically a kind of a rogue / assassin. So I just went and mentally grabbed a role-playing game character from a Forgotten Realms campaign that I had been in, and his name was Ozzy. And so in the book, Lorenzo, this thief, scumbag, assassin, his one of his many code names, one of his many aliases is Ozzy. And and so I had the fully formed personality, the character, everything. And so when I wrote the book, it moved into the modern world, but it's straight up a role-playing game character. And that turned into a series of novels, and we're working on the 3rd and final one now. in Monster Hunter, I got one of the characters in Monster Hunter paints minis and plays War Machine. I had to squeeze that in there. A little shout out to my peeps. But I don't know. I write books sometimes with Mike Cooper, and Mike's comment about our writing styles is that he writes books that are basically first-person shooters, and I write books that are basically role-playing game campaigns. So, I don't know. Yeah, I think the influence is just there. I took about 10 years off of gaming because what happened is, high school, college, all my 20s, I gamed a lot. But then, I got married. I started having a career. I worked for Fortune 500 companies. I was a finance guy, and then got into the gun business. I was a defense contractor. And so for about a decade there, I didn't game at all. I was just too busy, career focused. And then I started writing, and I started having some successes writing. And I had my first book come out. And I was at a book signing one day with Dan Wells, who's a great author. He writes the I Am Not a Serial Killer series and the Partial series. He's a fantastic author. And so we're there at this book signing, and Dan's talking about his role-playing games group, how they just had a guy move. And so they had a gap, and they needed somebody else. And he looks at me and goes, "Hey, Larry, you ever play role-playing games?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, what kind are you playing?" He goes, "Legend of the Five Rings." I go, "What's that? I've never heard of it." And he's like, "Have you ever seen Akira Kurosawa movies?" So, okay, I am the biggest Akira Kurosawa Seven Samurai nerd, right? So he tells me this, and he's like, "It's a role-playing game like that, only with magic and monsters." I was like, "Oh crap, I'm in." And that was about I don't know, 5 years ago now, and so that got me back into it, and I've been doing it quite a bit, and I got into mini painting a couple years ago because I needed a hobby that was not on the computer. I needed a hobby that was away from the computer because I was on the computer all day long writing books. So I needed something that took me away from the computer, but it was still something I could do at home. And keep in mind, it's frozen here half the year. So I decided I was going to try mini painting, and I got addicted to mini painting, and I've been doing that pretty hardcore. And so as I'm talking to you, I'm walking around my office. I've got, let's see, a dozen shelves, that's not a joke, a dozen shelves filled with minis. And I guess the first step to, on the 12-step things is admitting you have a problem. So I do have a mini painting addiction, but the mini painting and the role-playing gaming and just gaming in general helps me as a writer because it helps me recharge my creative juices. And my role-playing game group over the last 5 years has been, 90% of the time it's all writers. It's all a bunch of novelists. And so we get very subplotty. We get very character-driven. And it's funny, when someone says like a really awesome line that would be fantastic in a book, we all kind of eyeball each other to see who's going to steal it first.
I did that the other day online.
Well, sometimes somebody says something, you're like, "Oh man, that's good."
Yep.
It's going in a book.
Mine's going in a role-playing game I'm writing, but yeah, somebody busted out a line that was absolutely perfect for this setting, and I went to them and said, "Can I use that?"
Yeah, it's if you've read the Grimoire Chronicles, there's Toru. Toru is kind of a more malicious version of the character that I played for the L5R campaign.
Okay.
And he was a fantastic character to write. So yeah, I mean, you can't really separate the two. When you're a geek, it's going to come through in your artistic stuff. Can't really help it. Oh, this is Geek Out Ever, and I can actually announce this now. Speaking of geekery, I'm guessing you guys are probably around my age. I'm almost 40. I'll be 40 years soon. So I'm assuming you guys grew up with Larry Elmore stuff, right? Larry Elmore. Okay, so everybody around our age grew up on Larry Elmore art. The cover artist for my new fantasy series is Larry Elmore. He came out of book retirement. He hasn't been doing book covers. He's just been doing original painting. He's come out of retirement to do the covers of this series, and he read the first book and he loved it.
Awesome.
So, yeah. So Larry's like, I'll do the covers. I'm like, holy crap, Larry Elmore's doing my covers? Dude, it was a nerd moment. I went all fanboy.
I mean, I owned all 5 of the D&D colored boxes, red, black, blue.
Nice.
All of them had Larry Elmore covers on them.
Yep.
Basic, Expert, Companion, Master, Immortals. I owned all 5 of those when I was in high school, and every one of those, Larry Elmore.
Okay, you'll appreciate this. I've got the original Dragonlance, the original 3 Dragonlance Chronicles novels.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got them from 1985, my original copies from 1985, and I've got them now signed by Tracy Hickman, Margaret Weiss, and Larry Elmore.
Oh my God!
After years now of going to cons, I tracked down all these people and got their signatures in books I've had since I was 10 years old.
Oh man, it's awesome.
Oh no, Tracy Hickman is a wonderful guy. We're friends now. I know him pretty good. He's a wonderful guy. But the first time I met Tracy, oh man, I went total fanboy. Okay, so I played Dragonlance as a teenager. I read all the Dragonlance novels growing up, and they were probably the biggest influence of like my teenage years as far as reading. I mean, 'cause I plowed through all those, and there's dozens and dozens of them at the time. And so the first time I met Tracy, Monster Hunter had just come out, so I met him at a writing event. Oh, it wasn't even the paperback. It was the original self-published Monster Hunter, and I had just gotten the publishing contract for the Bane version. So I met Tracy at an event, and I went up and I started shaking his hand. And I was like, "Oh, Mr. Hickman, I'm so excited to meet you. I wrote a book." And apparently, according to the people that I was there with, I'm 6'5", and I'm a big guy. Apparently, I was scary as hell. I rushed up to Tracy Hickman. I'm vigorously shaking his hand, and I toss this book at him. And I'm like, "I wrote a book here." I mean, we're friends now. He's a great guy, and I've talked to him a bunch of times since. He's a wonderful man, but yeah, I guess I could be I went a little fanboy.
Okay, I'm going to break in because this actually has direct impact to that story, and I don't think I've told this story on the show or any of the shows before, so it is a similar moment. The first time I met Larry, technically the only time I met Larry, was at a gun range, which is the most Larry place to meet Larry.
That's a common place to find me.
And I did not know that Larry was going to be there. I thought he might be there because I thought, I was going to a gun range in an area where Larry was, and I thought he might be there. Didn't know for sure. I went there, heard some people, went up to the range master world. There was 2 lines set up, one with pistols and civilian weapons, and the other one where they had set up all the cool military weapons. Okay, and so I looked at the pistols and stuff, and I said, "That's nice. I'm going to go for the cool-looking weapons." And seriously, it looks like one of those scenes out of like Call of Duty or whatever, where they send you over and say, "Oh, hey, go get a gun from over there," and you have like 20 guns to pick from, all with different sights and different kinds of guns and different ammo. So I walk over to the cool place, and this tall dude is standing there with a goatee, and I say, "Hi, I came over to shoot a gun," and the guy says, "Oh yeah, my name's Larry." And I just kind of looked at him for a second. I don't know how long it was, objectively. Subjectively, it didn't feel that long. And then I asked, and he holds out his hand. I shake his hand, and I say, "Larry Correia?" Larry cocks his head and says, kind of half hesitantly, "Yes." And then I started laughing, and I couldn't stop laughing for like 30 seconds. So that's my story of meeting Larry.
Well, if there's ever an event with machine guns or heavy weapons, I often got volunteered to be the guy to run the people on the machine guns. Because I've been a firearms instructor for a long time, and so plus I know my way around full auto, and so I got that duty a lot. I don't even know which event this was. I honestly can't remember. There's been too many, but yeah, I've run a lot of. There's nothing quite as exhilarating as running complete strangers that you don't know anything about, and how competent they are, and giving them a machine gun.
Oh, I must have been. Well, I don't know. I don't want to break this down to say I'm unlucky because they didn't have any machine guns that day, but they did have a 50 caliber Barrett.
Barrett's a great.
And I couldn't believe that thing. I don't know, folks, if you've ever have a chance, if you ever have a chance to stand near a Barrett while it's firing, you want to do that because I was like 5-8 feet away from it, and when somebody shot it, it kicked up my pants. I mean, it literally sent my jean legs flapping. That was how awesome the sniper rifle is. It just, and I got to shoot it. Larry was the range master, so he was the one who was like, okay, you want to get down, you want to do this with the, and it was awesome being able to shoot it. So yeah, that was no machine guns, but it did have a Barrett, so I can't complain. It would be ungentlemanly.
That's my other form of geekery is guns. I am a gun geek. I am a gun nerd. Love them. I just have a lot of fun with them. And how about the muzzle blast on the Barrett though? That's really fun for a while until you do it for 12 hours in a row.
Yeah.
I say, I have had some headaches that you would not believe coming home after running a 50 range.
Yeah, I can imagine. Speaking of which, this wasn't a question I was going to ask you. Brian has another question up in the queue, and I have to ask his question. But before I do, I want to ask this: have you seen American Sniper and/or John Wick?
No, I have not seen either yet. I'm always way behind on movies. I want to see American Sniper. I've heard it's awesome, and so I'm familiar with the story. And plus, it really ticks off a lot of people that I don't like Michael Moore. So I would buy tickets just for that. But I heard John Wick was awesome. I heard John Wick was actually a lot of fun, but I haven't seen it yet.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, Dorrinal, who the audience can hear, but you can, said it was absolutely incredible, and it was. It was a phenomenal action movie. I'm an action movie junkie. I see action movies as much as I possibly can arrange.
Yeah.
And it is the single best action movie I've seen at least in a decade. I was disappointed with Taken 3, not because of the plot or the characters or anything that happened, but because I wanted the fight scenes to be more like John Wick. That was my biggest disappointment with Taken 3.
John Wick is really nice.
I'm totally going to. I got a really big. I don't go to the theater much, but I have a really big TV at home.
Oh yeah.
Stuff comes out. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for Wick. I heard that was actually good. I did watch one clip of it. It was a scene where he goes into he's coming out of a nightclub, I think.
Oh yeah.
He shoots like 16 dudes in a minute. And I watched it. There's hand to hand, and like, wow, Keanu Reeves looks like a bad dude.
Yeah.
That makes Keanu awesome. Have you seen action movie nerd stuff? Have you seen The Man from Nowhere?
No.
Okay, it's a Korean movie. The first half is pretty slow. The second half picks up, and then it has the best knife fight scene in any movie ever made. It was on Netflix. Don't know if it still is, but watch that. Trust me. First half is pretty slow. Second half better. Then the best knife fight you will ever see. I've watched this knife fight like 50 times.
Sorry, I'm not responding because I'm having to type with one hand, and I'm writing that. I'm typing that up on my notepad, so I can remember it. Dorrinal also wants to put in a word for The Raid Redemption because he thinks it's a phenomenal movie, and he made me.
Oh, that is a good movie. That is spoiler alert. When the little dude fights the two guys at the same time at the end, the little bad guy, he is so tough. That is a violent movie too. like, holy crap, that is a violent movie. That's coming from me.
He made me promise to watch this 2 years ago, and I haven't watched it yet. And every time it comes up, I have to feel guilty that I haven't watched the movie I promised to watch 2 years ago.
Oh man, yes, yeah. The Raid is fantastic. It starts out, and it's guns. It starts out as a gunfight movie. It's a SWAT team versus a bunch of bad guys. And it goes on, and it goes on. They start running out of guns. They start using, knives and meat cleavers and bats and chains and choking people to death, and it just gets rougher and rougher and rougher. And then it never lets up. I mean, the movie never slows down. It's hyper violent from beginning to end. I liked it. I enjoyed the heck out of it.
All right, so definite endorsement for The Raid Redemption if you haven't seen it. I'm going to ask Brian's question because I have been unfairly... well, actually, no, I haven't. You have been unfairly monopolizing the conversation.
I do that.
Brian wanted to know, loyalty to and protection of family is prominent in your work. Are there any real-life influences that informed those themes?
Good question. Well, family is really important to me. I am a very family-oriented man. I mean, I've been married for 17 years. I love my wife. I spend a lot of time teaching self-defense to people. I've heard every horror story you can imagine. Every, criminal minds kind of psycho out there I've, learned about. And I don't know. I'm very loyal and protective of my family. I grew up kind of rough. I grew up in a rough area. I grew up kind of poor. And we had a lot of family problems, but I still love my family. I still love my parents, and they did the best they could with what they had. And I don't know, family's always been that's a hard one. That's a good question. I never really thought of it that way, but I suppose that is kind of a reoccurring theme with me. It makes sense from a writing perspective because you're telling a story and you want your readers to relate to it. And, that connection, and a lot of times it's not blood relatives in the story either. But, I mean, just that connection you get with your companions as you go through difficult things in life, that's a powerful theme. I mean, it resonates with people. So, yeah, good question, but unfortunately I do not have a pat answer for it.
See, this is the moment at which I would ask him a question so he could clarify that, which is like what sort of events or elements was he thinking of in specific that would illuminate maybe what was behind it some more. I'm going to do this. I'm going to break out a quick anecdote and let him type that up so he can tell me, so I can tell you what events he was thinking of that would be family oriented. While I say this, because one of the things I think you skipped over. Ooh, I get to do this. This is so meaningful to me. You're talking about, Brian asked about geeky influences on your work. One of the things I noticed that you mentioned on your blog that you skipped over that went into especially your first novels, was your love of bottom-of-the-barrel B-movie monster movies.
Yep. Love it. I'm a huge fan of horror movies, but not high-budget horror movies, not slickly produced, fancy ones. Honestly, those usually leave me cold. I'm not into them, but I love low-budget horror flicks. I love monster movies. Just that part of my brain. If the movie cost $100 million to make, I'm very unforgiving as I watch it. I'm very critical. Especially about the writing and the plot. I'm very critical. But if the movie was made by a bunch of college students and the actors were paid in beer, and the monster is a guy in like trash bags, I will forgive all manner of crap and just be joyous, and be happy as can be. I'm passionate about bad movies. I just love them. Let's see, I had, one time I was at a con, and there was another guy there who was his career, Nathan Shoemate, he's kind of made a career on reviewing bad movies. And we had like a bad movie trivia contest. We went back and forth, you know, where it was like we had questions from the audience to see who could name the various bad movies. And I mean, back when I was in the gun business, they used to do that too. Like I'd be there working on something, and then I had one time I was working on something that was some Army Special Forces guys. This one guy looks at me just out of nowhere as we're working on like serious gun business. He just looks at me and goes, "Correia, what movie had a zombie fight a shark?" And I was like, "Oh, Lucio Fucci's Zombie. I think it was Zombie 2, like 1978." And he looks at his phone and he's like, "Oh my gosh."
I've seen that movie.
You know, just stuff like that. Unfortunately, I've not kept up as well recently. So there's stuff in recent years that I've missed out on. But the 80s were a golden time.
The last 15 minutes of our last show a week ago was all about horror movies, bad horror movies, and so one of Brian's friends is actually made a Nazi zombie movie because he had access to a place full of costumes. It's just exactly what you're talking about. College kids. It's called A Chance in Hell by Tony Wash. College kids with a camera put together this zombie movie, shot it, and it's even in IMDb. So
that's awesome. One time I was talking about shooting events, and we had this guy show up, and it was real late at night, and this guy's my size, big, intimidating fella, and we start talking, and then he realizes who I am because he reads my blog, and he goes, "Oh, so you love B-horror movies?" I go, "Yeah," and he starts listing off the ones he's been in, because he helped produce a couple in Arizona, and it was so fun because it's out of nowhere. It's like all these other guys that are there, they're like, we had no idea what we're talking about. And it was, oh gosh, which ones he did? He did a few, what was that called? I'm drawing blanks now on the name, it's been too many years. But it's always fun to run into people who, they've read my stuff, or I've like watched their stuff. I love that. I have an autographed, framed copy of the movie poster for Zombie Strippers. You know, because you get the mutual admiration thing where they're a fan, you're a fan of theirs. And it's fun, you know. It's I enjoy, and I've met a lot of people that are filmmakers now for low budget stuff, and I appreciate their art. I love those guys.
We have a question from the chat. Mauser712 wants to know if you can talk about the Bayan Fantasy Contest.
Oh, yeah. The Bayan Fantasy Contest, we started that last year. It is going to be an annual thing because we've had the Jim Bayan Memorial Science Fiction Short Story Contest for many years. And this is now a fantasy one. I was one of the judges last year. I'll be a judge again this year. And how it works is the details will be on the Bayan webpage. The winners are announced at Gen Con, but basically it's you write a short story. It's got to be a fantasy short story. You submit it to Bayan. Basically the award is publication. They buy it from you and they publish it. And they pay you professional rates and everything else. And it's a good resume builder, good practice. It's just a fun contest. And the thing was we wanted a big action-adventure, fun, epic fantasy or heroic fantasy, monsters and magic. You know, we wanted original things. We wanted cool stuff. We didn't want navel-gazing, lip-picking, you know, sitting around talking for hours kind of bullcrap. We wanted Bayan fantasy. And we threw this out there, and we were thinking, okay, you know, this is the first year. We'll probably have, 50 people enter. I can't remember what the final number was. It was some ridiculous, like 500 and something short stories came in. And I was so like we had this one guy in the office had been volunteered to be the alpha reader. He was the guy who was supposed to go through and narrow it down to the top 10. We didn't know who wrote them. So we was blind judging. And then there was 5 judges, and we would read the 5. We actually went up with 12 finalists, and they were all good. Was the problem? They were all 12 were good, solid stories, and so it was so hard. We wound up spending a couple days arguing. The 5 judges actually wound up spending days arguing because none of the 5 of us ranked all 12 in the same order. But we had some great stories. The winner was actually a short story by Katie Julicher, which was called The Golden Knight. And it's just a really good, solid, well-written epic fantasy story. And it's part of a larger series, and they're now pitching. Last I heard, they were pitching a novel, a full-length novel today. So, it's a pretty cool contest, and I'm looking forward to doing it again this year.
All right. I had my own personal question. Is there any? Are you planning on doing an anthology of your short stories at any point?
Yes, we are. That's kind of been back burner because I've been just cranking out books, but I now have quite a few short stories published, and I've talked with my publisher about that, and so we will do a collection of just my short stories. And we've also talked about doing an anthology of Monster Hunter International Universe stories by other authors, that's a separate anthology. So it'd just be like MHI stories by all sorts, various authors who want to, who I've been approached by many, believe me. And that's 2 separate anthologies we've talked about. But I've actually done a lot of short stories over the last couple of years. I don't know how many, but probably got to be around 20-something, I'm guessing, but over the last couple of years. But yeah, so I've got enough for a book. But just so yes, there will be.
See,
eventually.
I'm just imagining now that you're talking about the Monster Hunter crossover series. I'm just imagining Butcher writing a story where Harry runs into Owen, and I just.
You'll appreciate this. Okay, so I love Jim Butcher. Jim Butcher is an awesome writer, and he's a great person. I mean, he's a stud. He's a good dude, right, in person. And I actually, got to hang out with him at Gen Con this last year, and hit it off with him. And it's funny. Okay, so this is a true story. One day, authors should not read their reviews online because they'll hurt your feelings. But I'm kind of a masochist, so I'm reading my reviews on Amazon for the Monster Hunter series, and there's this 1-star review. And the guy is just going off about how horrible and awful, bad, terrible, stupid, lame, going on. And just terrible review. And then it ends with, and if you want to read good urban fantasy, read Jim Butcher. Okay, that same day, that afternoon, Jim Butcher posts on Facebook and says, I just read this book called Monster Hunter International, and it was awesome. Best orcs ever. He posted it to his fans. Okay, so you're never ever supposed to post, this is before I met Jim, you're never ever supposed to, respond when somebody gives you a negative review. That's considered very unclassy.
Yeah.
Unless you have an opportunity like this, and it's too dang funny not to. So I responded, oh, really? We should read Jim Butcher? And then I quoted Jim Butcher and put the link, and I was like, fuck it! He thought it was awesome. I had to do it. Because, it was within 24 hours, the comment is I was like, this is a sign that I'm supposed to mess with this guy on Amazon. Butcher's awesome. He's a good guy. We were on a panel together one time, and I can say that Jim Butcher has hit me with a cup of water. So we're on this panel.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah, it was at Gen Con, and we were talking about magic systems and different kinds of magic systems, and that's about technology mixing with magic and how does it work in your world, and we'd all gone through an answer. And there's this guy on the panel, another author named Maurice Broaddus. And Maurice is a really nice guy, and he was kind of like an urban, inner city, kind of like King Arthur meets The Wire, okay? And so, great pitch. I haven't read it, but he heard the thing. So he's talking about how his guys families wouldn't really have technology affecting the magic because they're poor. They don't really have access to high-tech stuff. At most, they have, like, cell phones. He's like, what are they going to do, tweet their way out of trouble? And he says that. And I look at Maurice and I go, ooh, tweetomancy. Which is the dumbest thing ever. Yet every author on the panel stops and goes, how would I do that? And he pushes down to me and he just goes, damn it, Correia. And he whacks me with a cup of water for suggesting tweetomancy. Because at that point, he's like, we're all like, well, we have to do it. Everybody up there was like, how would I do tweetomancy? So, yeah, there was good dude, just a good dude. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of his work. Oh, but kind of crossovers. Another guy I'm a fan of is Jonathan Mayberry.
Oh, yeah.
Mayberry's a stud, and he's a good writer. I mean, he's so good. So me and Mayberry got approached. We're among many of these authors who got approached for this anthology being put together this year I believe it's called Urban Allies. And what it is they're getting all these different urban fantasy authors, and they're having us grab one character from our universe and team up with another author and co-write a story with them using one of their characters. So it's an anthology of crossover stories from urban fantasy authors. And so I was like, okay, that sounds fun. Who else is on it? I saw Jonathan Mayberry was on there. And so I'm like, we know each other. And so I was like, I got dibs on Jonathan. He's like, I got Correia. And he's like, who do you want me to bring? I was like, well, Joe Ledger. And I go, who do you want for me? He's like, I want Agent Franks. And I was like, oh, yeah. So we're doing a Joe Ledger, Agent Franks crossover.
Oh, that's awesome.
Later this year. That should be fun. I'm looking forward to that. So, yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Joe Ledger books, and
they're excellent.
The movie is in production right now. They just cast a role. I just read that yesterday.
Oh, I hadn't seen that yet. They did a pilot several years ago for a Joe Ledger TV show. It didn't get off the ground, but they did a pilot for it. This is back before it got famous. But Jeremy Renner was going to play Joe Ledger. Hawkeye.
We talked about him last week too. He's a criminally undervalued actor. He is far better than his level of fame.
Oh man, he could have been. I mean, imagine a Joe Ledger TV show starring that guy. That would be so cool. But so no, I'm really excited. I'm excited for him. I got a bunch of friends with stuff in production right now and movie stuff. Actually, like I mentioned Dan Wells earlier, but I think they're going to start filming his I Am Not a Serial Killer movie here pretty soon, which is going to be really cool. That's a good book. So yeah, I'm always excited. We're authors. Most of us know each other, and we're actually pretty cool. So we always kind of root for each other, but at the same time, there's that little bit of professional envy when somebody else gets like a really awesome deal that you didn't.
Yeah.
So this is a true story. Last couple years, I've had Monster Hunter International. I sold the rights to a production company, and they've been sitting on them, and they haven't gone into production yet. So they have the rights, but as the books got more famous, I started getting contacted by more and more Hollywood people who wanted to buy the rights so they could make a movie. Which is really cool when you're at home, just minding your own business, and you get a phone call, and somebody's like, hey, I'm a movie producer, and you're like, yeah, sure, you're a waiter. But then you put their name into IMDb while you're talking to them, and it comes up that they've won Academy Awards and crap. That gets your attention real fast. Okay, so but I was getting approached by different people, and then I got approached by somebody who's the guy that produced Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, and he was working with The Rock. And The Rock likes Monster Hunter, and The Rock wanted to play Owen Pitt. Okay. Because he wanted to play he wanted an action adventure movie with monsters and guns and explosions and violence. He wanted a named character. Okay, he wanted like a Han Solo for himself. You know what I mean? So all I could do was send him along to the company that had the rights, and they made an offer, but the company didn't budge. And so that's Hollywood for you. And so nothing happened. And so then several months later, I'm on Facebook. And I see an announcement from another author I know, a great author by the name of Weston Oaks. He's a fantastic horror author. And I haven't read this book, but he's written a book called SEAL Team 666, where Navy SEALs fight monsters. he announced that he had just sold it to The Rock, and he had already gone into production, and it was going to be starring Dwayne Johnson, and I was like, oh, son of a gun. So I email Weston, I know the guy, he's like I said, great dude. I email him, and I'm like, hey, first off, I saw that. Congratulations. That's wonderful for you. That's going to be great for your career. Second, I hate you. Angry screed, I mean, I love the guy. I'm glad he's got it, and I'm happy for him. But it's one of those, it's like we interviewed for the same job, and they didn't hire me. You know what I mean? So authors, we all kind of know each other and run in the same circle, so you root for the other guy, but you're always a little jealous of the awesome stuff that happens to somebody else. But actually, they had some good news though. They actually extended the contract, brought in some screenwriters. We're actually in production. Last I heard, but I don't know what's going to happen because Hollywood is weird and flaky. But they've actually proceeded. They've teamed up with Sky Network because Rupert Murdoch, his people came in. They were interested in it. So, fingers crossed. We'll hope for the best. But Hollywood's flaky, so I won't believe there's a Monster Hunter TV show until I see the check cash.
All right. We have about 5 minutes left in the show.
Oh man, that flew by.
Yeah. Well, see, the time flew by for you because I'm estimating 20% of the show complaining about Google. So you didn't have to actually work as hard as you might normally have to on a podcast because I was upset. Let's see. I want to do this because this is the last thing I wanted to talk about. I had a list of like 4 topics, one of which was anything that comes up. And obviously, we've covered anything that comes up. And the last of the topics I wanted to talk about in the last couple of minutes is the fantasy series that's coming out from Ban in October. If you want to give a plug for that or just... because I loved the description of the main character because the way you described it was a cross between character A and character B. I thought that was awesome, and I want to give you a chance to tell that story.
Yeah, my description of the main character would be a magical cross between the Punisher and George Washington. Because it's the series covers a massive revolt. And this guy is a no-nonsense murder machine who kind of gets thrust into a position of leadership and importance as the series goes on. Okay, so basically what the book is, what the first book is, first book's called Sons of the Black Sword. It will be coming out in October. The sequel is called House of Assassins, and the third and final book in the trilogy is called Destroyer of Worlds. I don't have dates on those yet. Those are the ones Larry Elmore is doing the cover for. They are, I'm pretty proud of them. It's a world where they're basically isolated to one continent because there was a horrible event in the past where basically it rained demons. Okay, monsters fell from the sky to the earth, or not to the earth, but to the world, and almost eradicated humanity. And then kind of a legendary hero showed up, taught the people how to use magic. They drove the monsters back into the ocean. Ever since then, the sea has basically been hell, and no one has ever crossed the ocean since. So it's been isolated to one continent. And the story takes place there. It's a civilization that has a really strict, brutal caste system, kind of based on India's system, where you have the caste list, the untouchables, and then the warrior caste and the workers and the management, basically the politician class. And the secular society of religion is completely illegal, completely banned, for reasons we get into the book. This character, the main character, is a guy who's kind of a elite magical roving law enforcement, because the guy's basically a roving killer of anybody who breaks law. And this guy burns villages. That's his job. So that's my hero as the book goes on. But it's pretty happy sunshiny. No, it's not. No, but it's good. I'm really proud of it, and it's coming really well. So That starts in October, and we're doing a pretty big push on it. We're doing a month-long book tour for it. I'm not sure exactly where yet, but I will be all over the United States for a month straight. So, looking forward to it.
All right. I'm going to pause real quick and give Dorrinal and Brian a chance to say whatever they want to say. So I'm gonna mute myself and let other people use the mics. They've been sitting here in the chat, taking care of the audience and feeding questions to me the whole show. I'm gonna hit mute real quick and let them say goodbye to everybody.
Well, thanks for stopping by, folks. Thanks to Larry for coming. Hope you all enjoyed it. It's about the jury rigging we had to do. We had fun.
Salt and vinegar chips, everybody. Salt and vinegar chips.
Dead air.
He must have broken the mute button. He's permanently muted now. I don't know who's going to close the show. Do you want to try the yelling thing? Can one of us do that?
We'll figure it out. In the words of Yako Warner, good night, everybody.
All right, I'm back. Thanks for tuning in, folks. This is Geek Gab, once a week, Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 hour, all play, no work, with your host, Dorrinal, Brian Niemeier. By the way, you can follow us all on Twitter. The links are down in the description of the show. You can read me online at daddywarpig.com, daddywarpig.com. Me and my co-hosts have very much enjoyed you guys showing up and listening to the show with Larry Correia, who is a great author, and read us all on Twitter. We are signing off for tonight. We will be back.